Episode 20.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty solid. We said we were going to do this all year, and we've stuck true to it, which I know you were more concerned that I would bail.
I was definitely concerned you would bail. Yeah, I'm arguing with myself in my head. I was concerned you were going to bail because I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of got to take off. It's got to do stuff for the channel. It's got to make sense. It definitely hasn't taken off, but the increase of everyone coming to the channel is like crazy high when we drop a lot of content from this.
Yep.
So that's really cool. And then, I don't know. It's hard to do a podcast.
Yes, it is. Very difficult.
It's hard to commit the time and find the topics and sit down and break away from all the other things you got to do in your day to do it. So I'm like, man, Kevin's a busy guy. I don't know if he's going to be able to. I'm like, let me look at Kevin's schedule. We're in trouble.
Yeah, no, I'm actually happy that we're continuing this. Today's episode is brought to you by Not Planning at All. We are going to free ball this one and figure out our topics quite quickly. But with that said, I'm actually liking hearing from people and talking to you because we can just, the back of my mind just kind of wanders while we talk and some ideas start to formulate, and it's kind of nice, to be honest with you. So
yeah,
we're just going to roll with it. We're going to continue. We're going to finish throughout the year, guaranteed. I'm locking it in. I promised that to you at the start when you asked me, and I'm holding true, which is really funny because Brittany asked me that the other day. Like, oh, you guys, like, are you enjoying it still? I know you're doing it. Obviously, she knows, but like, are you still wanting to? And I was like, I told Dylan straight up, we're doing it all year. I committed to that to him. He asked for a 1-year commitment, and I'm holding true. So,
yeah, I'm in a weird space right now because I'm definitely leaning in my like red pill era right now, and like all I've been doing is watching like liberal and conservative arguments online. So I want to talk about that, but I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to hold firm on any ideas on camera. And I'm like, this is a business podcast. We can't do that. So I'm like, trying to find, I want to hear from people, anyone who's watching, whether you're seeing this in a short or if you're seeing it in a horizontal video or a long form podcast, like to give ideas,
Yep.
Because we found ourselves interviewing a lot of people and not doing so much of what we're doing right now. And that's cool. It's fun. But I want to be able to like bring in some guest topics.
Yep.
Like what do people want to hear about from their mouths? And maybe bring those people on.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had some interesting ones. I mean, everybody's been interesting, but like everyone's perspective on business there's been like a common thread for obvious reasons, but it is really interesting to get their take. I subscribe to Ted Yates's email list now.
Oh, really?
Yep, I get those
nice.
every few days. I get a little miniature tidbit. Definitely makes me wonder, should I have a business coach? Definitely,
I think so.
Definitely makes you wonder.
When he was sitting here, I'm like, man, I wonder if Kevin's gonna sign up. Like, this is kind of ideal.
It's crossed my mind a few times. Actually, before we got him to come on, it's been a miscellaneous thought, that kind of that intrusive thought that comes in every once in a while. And then he was here, and I don't know if you remember, but I didn't really talk very much that episode because I just kept listening to him. Not that I try to just let others talk when they're here. Like, that's the whole point of them being here. But like his specifically, I think I talked maybe the least.
That was my favorite. That was the first time that we did a podcast where I was going to people and being like, you have to listen to this. I'm like, don't even pay attention to what me and Kevin are rambling on about. Yep. This guy was dropping gems.
Yes.
And that was like, I don't want to say proud, but it was kind of like it was the most exciting moment so far of doing the shows and having people. I'm like, this guy, everyone needs to hear this.
It's crazy what he's like, how he's been able to turn around businesses and with just such conviction.
And it's just simple. Like the whole hospitality meter, just looking at it on a scale, the indifference, people excited about you, people feeling like they're a part of your business. I'm like, yes. Like, I just needed to hear somebody say this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. So, but yeah, recently you threw a text my way that was a baseball reference from way out in left field, which is very on par for you. But this one was about. I do not get surprised anymore when I look down and I see a obscure text, like completely off topic. I'm just like, yep, Dylan's doing Dylan. But this one was personality test.
Yeah.
And you asked me to take it, and I did. And then I was like, all right, you gotta send me yours. So took the personality test, and I am a architect, and you are a commander.
It's pretty lit. I was like, yes. I didn't expect it to come up with that. I thought it was going to say, like, narcissist or something along those lines. I was like, Commander, that's sick. I love this.
Yeah.
I know, like, we haven't talked about what they are, really, but when you think of architect, just the word, doesn't it make sense that you started a business and built it up and employed people and, like, have a grand idea for it all?
Yep.
I'm like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah, I read my own, and I was like, holy crap, this seems pretty accurate.
Yeah. So what is the architect personality type?
So the architect personality type is the personality type with the introverted, intrusive, thinking and judging traits. These thoughtful tacticians love perfecting the details of life, applying creativity and rationality to everything they do. Their inner world is often a private, complex one. I was like, oh, that sounds, just that initial line sounds pretty accurate. People with the architect personality type are intellectually curious individuals with a deep-seated thirst for knowledge. They tend to create creative...
All right, come on. Do it for the podcast. Get it right.
They tend to value creative ingenuity, straightforward rationality, and self-improvement. They consistently work towards enhancing intellectual abilities and are often driven by an intense desire to master any and every topic that they are interested in. So, and they are logical and quick-witted. Think for themselves, and uncanny knack for seeing right through phoniness. And minds are never at rest. These personalities may sometimes struggle to find people who keep up with their nonstop analysis of everything around them.
That line. That's what I was like, oh, that's definitely Kevin.
Yeah, I do not stop thinking. I'm always thinking, always looking at all various avenues to explore, different takes on people's opinions. You can continue to go down this, and one of the things, which, I mean, all of it's pretty accurate. Let's call it what it is. But, like, this personality type doesn't take opinions without some sort of factual backing. And I'm like, yep. I can scroll on social media and read all these things, right?
But your facts, no feelings. Like,
yeah. But if there's not
how does it work?
If there's no fact behind it, if there's no, like, this was researched by XYZ, this was proven, this has a 37% success rate because of various testing, whatever needs to happen to deem it factual.
Yeah.
Like, I'll read something on social, and immediately, if the topic interests me, right, or I care to know more, I'll go straight to Google and be like, I type it in and be like, come on, prove the fact. Like, go down the rabbit hole of 2, 3, 4 articles.
I'm so different in that way. Because if I see something and I just immediately, here's my thing. I'm like, that's stupid. And I move on. I don't even, like, give it the time of day to figure something out. I just go off, like, a lot of, like, just this instant reaction, which is a terrible personality trait to have. But instant reaction, I'm like, no, don't like that. That's dumb. Move on. I give nothing the time of day. And then my personality test, if you want to pull it up, but it spoke specifically about efficiency. And literally, people don't know, well, maybe I've said it on the podcast, but, like, months and months and months prior, I was just preaching, like, efficiency. We got to be, how do we do it, like, the best, the quickest way? And then in the personality test that brings that up, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
The big line, and it's a quote from Steve Jobs, your time is limited, so don't waste it. And I'm like, yep, that's me for sure. What's the personality type? ENTJ, extroverted, which is
Yep.
I didn't think that was true, but that's true.
Oh, you didn't think you were extroverted?
No.
Bro, that's why I have to bring you to engagements and meet and greets and networking. You are like, I latch on to you. Like I'm like your shadow, and like you say hi to somebody, and then I'll pop out and be like, "Hi, I'm Kevin." Like I don't want to engage first.
I've never thought of myself as extroverted, but my wife says it all the time that I am. So I don't know. And I'm not fishing when I say it, but I never think about it that way. I'm always in my head when I'm around people. I'm not really like overthinking situations, but I'm more like, who am I going to talk to? What are we going to say? How am I going to introduce myself? I don't play it out, but I kind of get there, and usually I cross my fingers and hope someone says something first. If someone says something to me first, I'm like, okay, I can do this. But then I had a moment. So yesterday I was at a baby shower, or not a baby shower, a gender reveal party. And my wife was with me, and she was like, do you want to go like sit on the couch? And I'm like, no. Just why? I'm like, we're here to talk to people, right? That's definitely an extroverted thing now that I think about it in retrospect. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I'm literally bouncing from this group of 3 people to that group of 4 people to this group of 5 people. And every time the conversation kind of deadens, I'm like, I just quietly walk away and go to the next group and start up some type of conversation or join in there. And but while that's happening, I'm in my head like, I don't want to be in the conversation when it dies and be like, so, like, how do we break this ice again? You know? So I'm just like, I gotta get out of here. It's weird.
Funny.
It's weird.
It's funny though.
Intuitive, I guess. Thinking for sure. Judging 100%. Mm-hmm. I judge everybody and everything, which is also a terrible personality trait. So it says the people that I'm like, I would probably know, and it's Steve Jobs, Gordon Ramsay, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Margaret Thatcher, Jim Carrey, Whoopi Goldberg. I'm like, I don't like any of these people. It's pretty bad. And then I got Harrison Ford on at one point and Malcolm X. I'm like, okay, my two guys. Yeah. My two guys. Star Wars, right? Harrison Ford, Star Wars.
Yep.
And Malcolm X, the GOAT. But I was like, man, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, do I not like my personality type? And then my wife takes the test. I'm like, oh, I just married my personality type.
Yep.
How did this happen?
So funny.
But it is eye-opening. It's 16personalities.com. I really think everybody should do it. Like so I asked your wife to do one, mm-hmm. and I got hers back. I'm like, oh, man, I've been communicating with her wrong this whole time. For like 6 years, I've been talking the wrong way to this woman. And hers was like, so stupid because it's so obvious. I'm like, light bulbs are going off my head. Like, you're an idiot, Dylan. Of course this is it. Like, it's in your face. Yep. Like, I forget what hers was exactly, but it was like a healer, a nurturer, like someone who deeply cares about relationships and how people feel and their emotional states. I'm like, dude, this is nuts. Mm-hmm. Did you read your wife's at all?
Oh, yeah. And I'm just laughing
like,
the whole time.
Check. Yeah, like, that's her.
I think it's easier for us because you and I both the judge, right, per our personalities.
Yeah.
You have a higher judging percentage than I do. I think it was like a solid 10% higher, which, again, makes sense because you definitely judge way faster than I do. But we both do, no argument. But I'm sitting there judging hers going, I'm just going to stop while I'm ahead. Yes, all of it. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. Like seeing just how straightforward I am, check. Seeing how I'm constantly thinking, check. How I analyze multiple outcomes for either a question or an action that's going to take place. And that's what I'm always doing. And
it's good for business. What I've been wondering now is like, I need to get business owners to do this test because I'm wondering if there's like a track if a lot of business owners are architects or what the case is.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, or like CEOs, people who maybe they're not the owner but they have to run the business.
Yep,
that sort of deal. Yeah, I don't know. But then there's more personality tests that I want to do. Haven't gotten around to it. But we had Yvonne Fry on from Workforce Development, and she was talking about a personality test. Harbingers, something like that, personality test. And at some point, it's kind of like, are we getting into zodiacs too? But with how accurate the 16 personality ones was, I was like, okay, maybe I should do more. Really get to know myself better.
Yeah, no, I actually haven't even read like all of it. I'm on mine. I'm a little over 3/4 done because I mean it's just pages after pages, talking about career paths, workplace habits, parenthood, friendships, relationships, strengths, weaknesses, miscellaneous. Like the category, like it just keeps on going. So I need to actually finish my own. Now that I have yours, I want to finish all of that so I can judge you further.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking like kind of deeply about communicating people, ways of working with people. I actually found this sheet called Ways of Working where you would ask your employers or coworkers or friends or whatever, anything you're doing some type of project with to fill out. Uh, and it outlines like how do you prefer to be communicated with? Do you like text? Do you like email? How do you accomplish tasks? What are good times to reach you and not reach you? Just better ways to communicate with people. And then there's a book I've been reading. This is going to turn into a book club that I suggested to you, Herding Tigers.
Oh, yep. I'm big on audiobooks, as you know.
Yeah.
Finished that one last week. Right now I'm on because you recommended it. Herding Tigers was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really, really interesting. Some of the points that they brought up, I was aware of, but like the nuances, I was not.
Mm-hmm.
And then talks a lot about being able to understand the other perspective, which I've always been big proponent for. Like you have to be able to see the other person's perspective, whether you agree with it or not. You have to at least be able to understand why they have that perspective as a creative.
Yeah. And it's, I guess maybe that book is what stemmed me wanting to do the personality test and all that.
Yeah, I can see that.
But in the book, the tigers is I think, important element of it is that we're talking about creative people in the industry that we're in, and personalities are so big, and then artistic people are very open to, like putting out a lot of emotion, receiving a lot of emotion. They're kind of open books, like, a lot of the people we work with, we're tattooed, or we have cool or funky hairstyles, or colorful, or we dress a certain way. And there's definitely like an art to seeing that and not making quick judgments. So then I get my personality says I'm like super judgy. Okay, I get it. But reading the Herding Tigers, like how do I communicate with all these different people? How do I get through my judginess, and how do I get down to the root of like really understanding the people that I'm working with or around, and kind of building them up or getting people to work together to be in the herd and accomplish goals. I think you do that really well, which is why I thought the book would be good for you to read, because it's kind of like, so you already see some of the writing on the wall, like you said, like, oh, I already kind of knew this and that.
Yeah, but some of the nuances, man, they're like so like it's actually marked down for me to re-listen to hopefully next week, because it was that good that I want to get a second round in a like kind of short amount of time to be able to process the information a little bit more. But yeah, it's there was actually, I don't know if you noticed, I mean, it depends how far you are in the book, but
I finished.
You did, okay.
Yeah.
So there was one portion in the book talking about meetings and communication. And I took like a little bit of a hybrid version of that section, along with something that you said to me whatever months ago at this point, and ran our last team meeting a little differently. So the last two team meetings I've kind of shifted slightly how we operate the meetings, and I'm already much happier with how much time we spend talking.
Yeah.
And what we accomplish. It's not necessarily the time. Like if we talk for 4 hours, which we don't, unless it's the annual meeting, right? It just needs to be a productive and successful 4 hours. If it's 60 minutes, it needs to be productive, 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And one of the things in Herding Tigers about talking about like meetings and communication within meetings was just start the meeting. Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah.
What you up to? How's things going? Which, like, me being so I'm a straightforward person. Like, you good? We good. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a problem? Let's talk. Cool. Hey, you good? No? Well, you're lying to me. I can tell. You sure we're still good? Okay. You say so, whatever, and we move on. Right? Like, I'm straightforward.
Yeah.
But so take my personality archetype of being straightforward, and him saying, the author of the book saying, like, hey, when you start meetings, just start them.
Yes.
Like, get into the creativity, get into the nuances. Your team will follow suit, but in a good way. It's not like they're not following, like, it's Herding Tigers. Right? We're all creatives.
Just starting the meeting, I think everybody likes that because we can all see the benefit of it. I think it's a unanimous thing that everybody thinks meetings can be a waste of time in some manner or
Correct.
another. But that waste of time is pretty objective when you talk about what they say in Herding Tigers. Just start the meeting.
Yep.
We are wasting time when we're going through how's your day? How's this? How's this going? What are you doing today? Or, if it's not relevant to the work.
Yeah.
Because those conversations are more meaningful outside of work meetings.
Correct. Start with a pleasantry. Hey, everyone good? Because if someone says no, well, yeah, hear them out. Like, if there is a problem, but if it's like, yeah, you get 5-6 yeses, we're in. Cool. And so so just starting, I was like, such a simple thing, but like within creatives, and like he broke down like the reason why it's good just to start, and I was like, yeah. I'm a straightforward person. I sure would like to just get going. I talk to all of you guys. At least I talk to somebody on the team every day.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't talk to Ken today, our editor. He's editing. He doesn't need me. We're good to go. Didn't talk to him today. Bet you I talk to him tomorrow though. Like, Ryan and I texted a handful of times today, a dozen times, but it was text, easy, quick, and then here I am talking to you. So it's like, but just, I don't need to talk to everybody every day. It's just the self-sufficiency component. But he broke down like why that was best, and I was like, love it. Our next team meeting's in 2 days. I'm just gonna get going, and I think within like 30 seconds we were in it, and I was like, love it. Immediately made me very happy.
I gotta call your wife out though. It's getting dirty on this podcast.
Yeah.
Your wife, at the very end of the phone call, she's like, "Wait, quick question," and I was like, "I thought we wrapped up. Like, I thought we were done."
Yeah.
Who's picking up the kids? I'm like, get me off this phone call.
You said
like, we did so well, and then we get to this ending point. I'm like, what are we doing?
You hung up, and which made me laugh because I knew why you did it. For that exact reason,
I literally
actually.
walk out of like there. I don't know. All right, here you
I
go.
was like,
and you're like, all right, so we're gonna save the parent talk for after the phone call.
yeah. I was like, honey, we'll text.
I'm like, Brittany, why?
Bye.
I'm like, why'd you do this?
Hung up, and then 10 seconds later, I have a text. Hey, so is it me or you? And I was like, this is 100% the definition of what can be offline.
But like, if you don't read this book, I mean, obviously it's not everybody, but you don't see these things.
Yeah, it's funny.
Prior to reading this book, I always had felt like meetings are a waste of time. But if you don't know why something's bad, then you can't really. Then it's not bad. You can't say something is objectively bad if you don't know why. So if I think meetings are a waste of time, why are they a waste of time? Mm-hmm. But then, along with the negative things, why are they a very positive thing to have as well? And I think it talked about that in this book, unless I'm conflating things. But the meetings, we have to have those. We have to have updates. Businesses need to have meetings. You have to take an hour block, or some businesses do daily stand-ups where it's like a 15-minute call. Clients are allowed to be on the calls as well if they choose to. They're not obligated to. And they just do a stand-up where everyone, this is what I'm doing today. This is what I've done. Yes. Here's what I haven't done. Here's my blocks. This, that, and the third. And it's what ultimately runs an efficient business. If the project managers, I guess like you in the case of hosting it, makes it go efficiently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
kudos to you. Definitely, it was definitely a better meeting than usual.
yeah, which I'm gonna make a few more tweaks, but like super minor, and just keep the efficiency going. Just knowing that like we all do talk, and when we all talk together, we just need to be a little more streamlined. Yeah, I offloaded a project to a different project manager today, where I onboarded a client to one of our project managers, and that client gets a dedicated amount of pre-production phone calls and meetings, right? And I had to tell that project manager, hey, I'm gonna just tell you right now, they're going to request in-person meetings for their dedicated allotment. Do not allow more than one in person. The rest can be virtual. And they were like, well, if they want in person, like, shouldn't we give them in person for all of them? And I was like, no, because at the end of the day, you have to drive 35, 40 minutes there and 35, 40 minutes back.
Yeah.
Plus, in-person meetings are known, statistically proven, to go longer than virtual meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you...
We did that recently.
Yep. Yes, we did.
A long time.
Yep. That was yeah, that's a whole different thing. But they're statistically proven to be longer, like on average. I don't remember the number. 9 minutes, 15 minutes, 12 minutes. I don't know. I literally don't remember the number. I just remember the statistic prove that in-person meetings are known to go longer. And I was like, no. I told them, I was like, no. They can get one of these in person, whether it's the first, the second, the fourth, whatever, right? But the rest have to be virtual. Because at the end of the day, if you just do the math, right? Like, if it's 5 pre-pro meetings for this large-scale project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the project manager is driving, let's call it 35 minutes. I'll split the difference. There and back, that's an hour and 10 minutes. Times 5, you're talking they're in the car for 6 hours.
A whole waking day. Pretty much.
And then if those meetings on average go longer, that's 5 hours and 50 minutes of driving. Mm-hmm. And if they go longer, you could be tapping 7, 8 hours of extra time that you've allotted. Right now, you just said it. That's a day. That's a day of work over the course of 3 months. Just because. So
yeah, I mean, I think in-person meetings have their place, where it's got to be something really difficult or complex.
And that's why I explained to them, hey, like,
lines.
One of these can be in person. I'm going to tell you right now, this client has all the writings on the wall that they are going to want all of them to be in person.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, that's not feasible for us because we're the ones who are eating the time.
Yeah, and
hey, I'm big on time management. You know that.
Meetings to set up a job are really good, and then meetings with who? Like if you wanted me to do an in-person meeting, what would really get me going is if you brought your boss. Because then I know that you're really going to care about how this goes. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get off topic because you don't want to look bad in front of your boss. Then I get to meet the champion of whatever the cause is that we're working on. That would be ideal, I would like, if for in-person meetings, I would almost always want there to be some type of, like, trophy to go. And that would be like meeting a boss or meeting a higher up, but, or like I said, like fixing a complex situation. And meeting sketch jobs. So how do you, sorry, I don't want to go like too into something that's like inside baseball, but if you got a request from a client, a potential client, to take a meeting, Fisher, stop, to take a meeting, would you want to do virtual or in person based on what's more successful to make the job happen? Like,
You know,
Get a signed deal.
I've never like calculated what's more. I've never calculated what's more successful, whether it's in person or virtual.
Yeah. We're gonna have to show the wide camera.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Like discovery calls, like trying to lock in the job. I don't know what's more successful for me. I really don't. I'm not trying to like evade the question. I will say that honestly, I think phone calls are the most successful discovery calls. Not virtual, like face-to-face via a camera, but good old-fashioned phone calls, I actually find are more successful because both parties, there's a level of relaxation when you're not on camera.
Yeah.
And things become a little more organic. I've noticed not everybody. I've noticed some potential clients try to hide their facial reactions and their emotions on virtual calls. Seriously.
I think that's worse.
And then that tiny subtlety of like awkwardness comes through, which then makes you wonder, did you poke or prod too much?
Yeah.
Did you just ask a bad question, even though it's a very standard question maybe? But a phone call, like there's something about like just a generic phone call that allows everybody to be a little bit more real and put their guard down, but in a good way. Like I'm not saying that in a like, you put your guard down and like you got hosed. I'm like, you just are able to have a genuine conversation without worrying about like, did you just roll your eyes or scoff at something, or even just as simple as like give that like thinking face, because like that's all tells. Like if you're in a meeting face to face, it's poker face, right? Like when you're getting into discovery and negotiations and everything like that, you have to be able to win your side of the deal for your business. If you're a client and you have a $25,000 budget, well, what do you want to do? You want to be at or under 25K, right? And if I ask a clarifying question that potentially exposes that budget, maybe you feel like you are exceeding your budget or about to exceed your budget, or you are...
I wish people could see the dog sniffing the camera.
Yeah, dogs get involved.
We're pretty far removed from it, but do you remember going on dates with girls, with your wife now, or just girls in general?
Lightly, sure.
Okay. So I would always do this when I was going on dates. I would go to a coffee shop. Like first date was not a movie, was not dinner, was not like a full-on lunch. First date, as much as possible, was a coffee shop.
Okay.
Because it's so much more comfortable. There's less pressure. We're just going to get coffee. You can walk away pretty easily. You're not like locked into a set amount of time, where like dinner, it's like, okay, well, we're going to be here for an hour, like guaranteed. But a coffee shop date is 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If it's good, it goes longer. But if it's bad, it's like the easiest exit, and there's really no weirdness. What you're saying reminds me of a coffee shop date. Like getting on the phone call with somebody eliminates a lot of variables.
Yep.
It's a quicker thing. There's less time for it to go wrong. We kind of get to the point very quickly.
Yep.
Do we jive with each other right away? And it's like the best feel out moment. The coffee shop dating was the best feel out moment. I'm like, I don't like this girl. Like, ooh, she orders tea and not coffee at a coffee shop.
Kind of weird.
That thing.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I'm getting when you're talking about hopping on a call for discovery.
Yeah, I had I just had someone like blindly call me last week. Ryan was actually here at the studio. We were doing an editing session, and I looked down and I just have a generic phone number call me, And I answer those for obvious reasons, like, being the business owner, I have to. If it says spam likely, I'm not answering. But it's just a generic phone call. Answer, hello. Hey, do you do this? Do you do product photos? Yeah, we do product photos. Okay, cool. Can you tell me your pricing? And doing this long enough, the tone, the sentence structure, how quickly they get into that question.
Yeah.
That's all tells of cheap.
Yeah.
Like they don't, like, at the end of the day, she didn't care if we even did her, like, have ever photographed her product or anything like her product, which I then had to ask, hey, what's your product? Because I can't even give you a baseline price if we're talking like your product.
Your product's an airplane.
Yeah, right? Like, paper clips and airplanes as a product shoot.
Same price.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the price is the airplane price.
Yeah, right? And she tells me what her product is, and I was like, oh, it's a relatively standard style of product or like size, right? I'm not going to give it away, but like, size and how to photograph it. I'm like, oh yeah, like immediately in my head, I'm like, oh, we have 10 different references that would fit this scope. No problem. I give her a baseline. I was like, hey, like this is the baseline. It, comes with X amount of photos and X amount of hours in our studio. This is kind of where we start. We can scale up if you need more, if you have more variation. And she was like, oh yeah, I'm calling around and getting a bunch of different pricing, just trying to figure out what the baseline in the area is. I'll call you back if I have any more questions. Thanks. Click. And I'm like, and I hang up.
Do you ever feel like that's just competition?
There's one time back in the day, like maybe like 3 years ago, I legit thought a competitor called, or like, competitor's spouse or something like that called. Just something about it. To this day, I still think a competitor's significant other called. I don't know who. I don't know what competitor, honest to God. But just something about the conversation screamed scripted, as if like I were to give the script to.
I've never done it, but I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need a 3-day production, 10-person crew.
Yep. It was super similar to that. And
Yeah, really?
I hung up and I went.
Interior, we have a house selected.
Obviously, like, my wife is in production. So in my head, my first thought was, if I were to give a script to my mom or my sister, that's what I just felt like just happened. Someone who doesn't know production, family member, you just had them write down like 7 questions. And I hung up and I was like, did I just give a competitor some of our information? Huh. I guess we're a threat to them, huh? And I walked away from it left my brain and I moved on. But I legit had that. It was like maybe
I would have been researching
3
all
years.
this stuff.
Nah.
What's his phone number? Who's this person related to?
Nah. Moved on with my day. Moved on. If you're gonna spend the time to do that, we are a threat to you, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Man, I was talking to somebody the other day. It's the big production company around here. No names, but you know who I'm talking about.
Us?
Not us. The other big production company. I was talking to someone from out of state. I think they were from Alabama or something like that.
Okay.
They're like, oh, isn't this where... They're like, where are you guys located? I said, we're in Clearwater. Oh, isn't that where this big production company's from? Like, kinda. They're in the next city over. She said, oh. Do you do stuff like them? Kinda. But like them and how? They're like, like that big wall. That gives it away. I'm like, no. She said, oh, that's too bad. It's like, dang. And I felt like it was like a plant. I'm like, who is this person? I think I was in like Dunedin or something, walking around. I'm like, who is this person asking me this?
Yep.
I'm like, they're trying to get plans for me. I was so suspicious after that, and they were really like, I'm being very vague, but they were very specific on the conversation.
Yeah, they're honing it in.
I'm like, because I was kind of thinking like, what if I said, yeah, we're thinking about getting one of those walls, and then where would the conversation have gone to?
Yeah,
so strange. I don't know. I'm definitely a little paranoid the more I pay attention to business and everybody around. It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
You know, like in the Doggerman business that we have, we'll tell anyone anything. Like, prices are online. You want whatever information, you can have it. In production, it feels a little different. I think higher stakes.
Yeah.
Like bigger contracts.
Yeah, bigger contracts, and it's so much of it's relationship building, right? And it's like
Yeah.
we've lost clients because of turnover, and the new individuals at those companies have different relationships than us, and so they have no ties to us.
Yeah.
And sometimes you wonder, like, did you lose that client because of that? High likelihood. Or is it because, like, you priced yourself out? Or are they just cheaper? And are they just undercutting you? I'm a big believer of, like, hey, our pricing's our pricing. I can finagle a few things lightly, but, like, I'm not gonna come down to, like, your level. I had a discovery call with a potential client. They showed a reference video that I'm convinced was $75,000 to create.
Okay.
80, maybe even 100. Just watching it, I'm just like, every second that's going by on this reference video is like, 2,000, 3,000. I'm adding it all up in my head. I'm just like, I can just see the money pouring out of this reference video. All right. Reference video ends. They showed it to me. They shared their screen and showed me, and I was like, cool. Da da da. They mentioned like 3 or 4 things that they liked about the video that they were wanting to incorporate into theirs. Mind you, we're like 50 minutes into this conversation when they showed me this video. 20.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I ask what your budget is?
$200, sir. Was it crazy?
$5,000.
Oh yeah.
Not to exceed $5,000. And I was like, I just want to let you know that my professional opinion is the reference video you just showed me is roughly $75,000 to get completed. Well, we don't want that exactly. And I was like, but if that's your reference video,
Yeah.
you can't be at 5,000. I mean, like, look. Shout out to my boy Andrew Artoski.
The GOAT.
People don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
He says it all the time. Such a simple saying that just is so accurate. People don't know what they don't know. But at what point does some semblance of common sense kick in? Like, that video was drop dead gorgeous, start to finish. And that's your reference. And all the things you're talking about are pretty detailed. I'm like, oh, and they willingly were choosing for it to be a multi-day production. So I'm like, You're wanting multiple days, you need a crew, you need gear. This is your reference video, and somehow you like that. No. Needless to say, unfortunately, the conversation ended pretty quickly after I said that.
Oh.
Because I then had to give an estimate, roughly, of what it would cost. And I mean, within 90 seconds, conversation was over, meeting was done. And I'd be shocked if we do the project. Now, will somebody do that job for $5,000?
That's what
yes.
the whole time I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there is a really good college student who doesn't have employees or anything, and he's starting his business, and he's got a means to do it somehow or another. He's creative enough. He's got a really great ability.
Yep.
And he'll do it for $5,000.
Yep, 100%.
But it's totally different when you're running a business and
Yep.
you have overhead and you have salaries and you have people to take care of.
Yep.
It's totally different. You just can't. And then you got to hire 15 people to get something done.
Yeah.
Versus a guy who will give, an independent person who will give every waking hour they have to accomplish it to get that payday.
Yep. So, like, I mean, even in its like slimmest, we would do a 4-man crew in our slimmest for that job. And because there was 2 locations that were not near each other, it would have to be at least a 2-day job. But they were, I was like, just no. It's just, I don't know how we got to that point, but
I don't know. I just did a job for $250. I didn't actually do it. I didn't go and do it. I hired someone else and just collected a little bit of money. And this guy was complaining the whole time. I'm like, bro, I told you someone I know so I can have a candid conversation. I said, bro, it's $250. I was like, you're not broke. You're not struggling. Stop complaining.
Yep.
He's like, you're right. I'm like, thank God. You're right. Just do what you got to do. I'm like, okay, cool. Because on the phone call, he's like, I want you to shoot it. I said, I'm not going to shoot it. It was like a Sunday night. I'm not going to shoot it. I want you to edit it. I'm not going to edit it. Like, turnaround was, it's a Sunday night. I want it done Monday. I was like, I don't have time. I'm not going to edit it. Well, I want you to make sure it's someone who's like you. Can I meet them? No. I was like, man, I'm only going to send someone out that I like. So it's going to be like whatever I could provide. And if anything, it'll be better than what I could do. Because I'd prefer to hire someone that's better than me anyway.
Yep.
And he, blah, 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 blah. And that's when I was, look, just stop. Like, it's going to be good. It's $250. Like, money's subjective. It's different to everybody.
Yep.
But he didn't, I don't know if I've ever said it on camera, but there's red flags. To me, it's like, this means so much to me. This is everything. This is going to change my life. This is going to change my business. He wasn't saying any of those red flags.
Yep. Okay, good.
He's like, I need a social media video. So I was thinking, you're talking about this $5,000 or whatever. And that would have been a hard $5,000 to make. It would have been really tough to do. And then
We would have taken a loss.
right.
Like,
And you can't, when it's a client, you can't, when it's a new client that you haven't worked with for a long time and don't have a rapport with, you can't have a lot of those candid conversations.
yeah.
If any at all.
Correct. Yeah, it was tough because I was like, would like to have you guys as a client for the right price, for the right price bracket. I mean, like,
It's super tough when you like what it is too.
I
don't know if you did, but
it was beautiful. I would have had so much fun.
yeah.
Whether I shot it or Ryan shot it, and then doesn't matter. I would have loved to have done it. Client aside, I just would have liked to have done the topic at hand. Like, it just would have looked super cool, and I think we could have made something really pretty. But, we can't take a loss. Like, we take a few losses a year on some, like, strategic concepts, right?
It's the architect in you.
But, yeah, well,
Building.
touche. But that was not one of them. That was one that's, like, you can't take a loss on this one. Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
You take calculated risks and calculated loss leaders on certain things, but that one didn't fit in that category. It was and it was in my head. I have 5 thoughts in a second flat, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah, totally get it.
Maybe they come back and they say, hey, we can double. What can you do for double? Okay, we can maybe make something work. I mean, maybe one day, but like, got to be above.
All right. End the podcast on a positive note.
Yeah, of course.
What is like what's your favorite production that we've done in the past 6 months? And shout the client out. Shouldn't take you this long.
I'm trying to think of all the ones we've done. Dang. I've had 2 docs, a few commercials, a lot of commercials. My favorite one. Right? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do two.
Okay,
Two different categories.
that's
So,
fair.
my favorite documentary that we've done is Built to Last, the housing documentary.
Okay.
Was I don't I'm shooting a little bit less nowadays, just because of my role with the company and like where I'm going, and you got Ryan who freaking kills it, so got to give him ample time to flex those cinematography muscles. But so I was the DP for Built to Last, and I'm just so insanely happy with the visuals. I'm truly like the interviews, even like the worst interview, quote unquote, in the doc isn't even that bad. Like it's like really, really beautiful interviews that I'm super proud of, and then the tier down I'm still super proud of, and then that tier 3 I'm like, hey, given the circumstances, maybe we only had like 30 minutes to like quickly do something. But just overall, like the B-roll we were able to get, the drone, being able to travel the state was super cool. Like it brought us through Tallahassee, and was able to go back to my alma mater, and down in Naples, Fort Myers. We were up in the Panhandle. Had some Tampa days. Like I just love like the travel component, because it wasn't like crazy traveling. It's not like we went around the nation and I was gone for weeks on end. Like It was light travel, beautiful imagery, good messaging, documentary wise. Like that's my favorite project of the year. And then
Wow.
Commercial project would probably be Eversana, the medical one that we just recently did. Just full freaking crew. We just hired a badass crew, like seriously. From the moment we just had like that pre-pro meeting in the driveway, like explaining, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. We're all going to be on our best behavior, but have a grand old time. And I feel like we checked every freaking box. We were in like the most like, just detailed, nuanced. Everybody put their head down, got the job done. There was just laughter and just good vibes the entire day. Even like the 2 super small issues we had got resolved in like mere minutes with no complications. And then we put the house back together. It was like a freaking awesome jigsaw puzzle, like disassembling that living room to nothing, to building our home office set, to then disassembling and putting it back. It was just crazy cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you. Someone was like, "Can you imagine these Airbnb owners if they know we just tore the house apart and then put it back together?" Like somebody said, it's like the opposite of throwing a house. Same thing as throwing a house party. We tore the house up, but we put it back together.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Yeah, that's true. That's crazy."
Half the couch was in the Florida room. The other half was in a bedroom.
It didn't even look like the same house.
Yeah.
On camera.
On camera, not at all.
Yeah.
But it was just cool, like coming in. We literally left an hour early. It was a well-oiled machine, and went on the commercial side. That one's the one I'm most proud of this year. So that's my favorite documentary. That's my favorite commercial job, for 2 very different reasons, and that's why I can't choose one, just because they're vastly different. Mm-hmm. They're so different. Like both are production. That's like the only thing that they have in common. And then one's a documentary, one's a commercial, one's travel, long form, one's local, short form. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So, what about you? What you got?
We've got 3 minutes, but my favorite thing. This is so random. My favorite production that I wasn't on was the Fair and Fairer production we just did.
Oh, okay.
That we were doing social media videos for, because I was editing a few of them. But my favorite moment was, we were talking about like, how do we make this Spanish? And I'm like, you're kind of talking. I'm like, yeah, I know what to do. Click, 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 click. I was like, hola, mi nombre, Fair and Fairer. And then you were like, what? How's that possible? I'm like, yeah, it's just this new AI thing on CapCut. Isn't that crazy? And then I was like, wow, we are in the future right now.
Yeah.
So that was That was a highlight for me. Something I went home and talked to my wife about. I'm like, isn't that crazy that I could just do that? She's like, yeah, it's kind of nuts when you think about it. And I would like the Built to Last doc. Let's just put a Spanish one out.
That's true.
Like, because you just do the English subtitles that we'll have, and then just do the Spanish dub with a click of a button.
We could do that for Cyber as well.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So that was,
I'm in.
That was a moment. All right, take us out. 2
All right.
minutes.
All right, episode 20, halfway point of the year. We're killing it. We're going to do some more. We're going to get some guests on here. If anybody has any questions whatsoever that they would like us to talk about, any topics, leave a comment, message us. We are open for chaos to erupt. Ask the questions, and we'll talk about it.
And Ryan, our DP, I heard you're starting a podcast, so we need to have you on as a guest. Stop running away.